What's happening, everybody? Trey here, joined again by my dad Sean, and today, reactions to the classic, we are going to be looking at the band's self-titled record. This comes courtesy of our Patreon supporter Jimmy. Jimmy's been with us since the beginning, man, so really appreciate your suggestion here, Jimmy. It was a fun album to dive into of a group that I really didn't know too much about.
I didn't either.
And if this is your first time stopping by, we appreciate it. Here are reactions to the classics. We take a look back at some of the most classic records of all time, do detailed track-by-track reviews, do live streams and reactions as well. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. We'll also have links to our Discord and Facebook group, as well as our Patreon if you'd also like to have us review a record for you. So all that to say, let's just get into the quick facts.
Well, it's their second studio album, came out in September of 1969, peaked at number 9 on the charts. It's number 45 on the Rolling Stones top 500 of albums of all time. Robbie Robertson actually on this album took over and engineered most of it. It's been viewed as a concept album with songs focusing on people, places, and tradition associated with an older version of Americana in the South. And the odd thing about that, Trey, is 4/5 of the band is Canadian.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a strange thing. They tried to record at a studio in New York. They kept trying and trying. A couple of these songs ended up coming out of that. But they ended up setting up shop in a pool house of a home rented by the group in Hollywood Hills. So Robbie Robertson wrote every song on here. A few of them have co-writers. I'll note those when we get to them. We're going to start this off with Across the Great Divide, sung by Richard Manuel. Lyrics begin with the singer asking his wife Molly to put down the gun she's waving. He's afraid if she doesn't do that, he's going to have to leave that home. Across the Great Divide refers to Americans heading west across the Continental Divide. Trey, this thing just starts out with the vocals. I thought that was interesting.
I had that in my notes too.
Okay, yeah, the album just starts out, boom, the vocals. It's very diverse musically. Good horns at the end. I think it's a pretty good song to start out with.
Yeah, I enjoyed the interplay of the guitar and the brass in there, as well as the organ. And as you noted, it just, boom, we get right into the song.
Yeah.
And I think there's a little metaphor as well, the great divide of their relationship.
Yes, I do too.
As you go through and really dissect and digest the lyrics, you immediately see the good storytellers that the band are. So I thought it was a good opener, and then that's going to move us to our second track.
Rag Mama Rag, sung by Levon Helm. Went to number 16 in the UK, which is the highest of any single by the group. Went to number 57 in the US. It has kind of an improvised feel. They tried to play it in a straightforward manner, but it didn't sound right to Robertson. Helm moved to the mandolin. Richard Manuel, the pianist, played the drums. Bassist Rick Danko played the fiddle, and producer John Simon jumped in, played the tuba, while organist Garth Hudson played upright acoustic piano in a ragtime fashion. It's interesting, they do this from time to time. I've read how the band just switches instruments around. So that's very interesting, the thought process that would go into that, but I'm sure it gives you a different kind of sound.
And you need obviously talented
members
to be able to
over a seat. Yeah, that is very true.
So that just shows how tight-knit and interchangeable they were in the group. And for this, it wasn't a highlight lyrically, probably on the bottom tier for that, but I did enjoy the relaxed nature of how they played. It kind of gave that gritty Americana type feel.
Yeah, they did have like that ragtime feel to it, just kind of a different sound to it.
So it just brought forth that atmosphere and imagery with it. Not one I'm going to come back to a lot, but it was cool for what it was.
And I'm surprised it was a single. When I listened to the other ones on here, I'm surprised that this was the one that they chose as a single, but hey, it worked for them.
Track 3, The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down, is a very unique topic because it's spoken of from a first-person point of view from a poor white Southerner in the last year of the Civil War. So, very unique subject matter.
Very interesting subject matter. Helm was singing this, and Robertson, when he was writing it, said he had this tune stuck in his head for 8 months, but he couldn't get the lyrics out. So he went to Helm. They went to the library, because we used to have those back in the day. We didn't punch it into the computer. He went to the library, and they researched Robert E. Lee, and he wanted to get everything just right. So Helm was happy with the way Robertson approaches. This is an epic story. The chorus really sticks in your head. I know this is a famous song of theirs, even though it wasn't a single, but it was a standout for me.
Yeah, I'm surprised that our previous tune was a single and this wasn't, because this was one of my favorite songs on the entire record.
Agreed.
That chorus, especially as you mentioned, just had a ethereal like feel to it. Harmonies were great, and the overall softness in his voice fit the subject matter well, because you know you often think of the soldiers in the war and whatnot, but in here the South, the land itself is devastated, and it's going to be a tough road to hoe, so to speak, in the coming years for this guy. So good track.
That brings us to When You Awake, sung by Danko, co-written by Manuel. The song starts off, there's a guy named Ollie that's giving the person advice, whether that's a relative or a friend, gives them some advice about life. Then the person's grandfather kind of reinforces that, encourages them, but doesn't really contradict that harsh advice. Robertson said it's about receiving advice in life and then passing that on to someone else.
Yeah, I enjoyed the message of it. Another cool concept, and notes really that even if life gets tough, to just keep soldiering on. There was a line in particular: you may be right and you might be wrong, I ain't gonna worry all day long. Ain't no reason to hang my head, I could wake up in the morning dead. So I think that line there just sums up what the song's about and the message as a whole. I thought this was another good song in a really great 3-song run in this album.
Yeah, and the instrumentation sounds different on this, and Robertson actually said that it's because they're made-up notes that aren't really chords that he played.
Up on Cripple Creek is the next tune. This was a single that reached number 25, and this is unique in the sense that it used that clavinet and really kind of had that funky type of sound to it. The clavinet, of course, is used a lot in the early to mid-70s in funk music.
And so it's interesting that it was here.
I did not expect that at all. So I enjoyed this one. It was one of my favorites on the entire tune, and the clavinet even sounded almost like a frog riveting at certain points.
Yeah, it did. What kind of went to the Cripple Creek?
Yeah,
thing?
Exactly. And then so tell us what the song's about.
It's a truck driver who's going through Lake Charles, Louisiana, and he hooks up with Bessie, spends some time with her. Trey goes back on the road, and he's going back home to Big Mama, but boy, he's tempted to go back to Bessie. So I thought this song was very country sounding compared to the previous tunes. Not that that's a bad thing. We're going to finish out the A-side with Whispering Pines, sung by Helm and Manuel. This is co-written by Manuel. He actually wrote the music, but couldn't come up with the words, so he brought Robertson in. Robertson wrote the words. Manuel wrote the piano part on a piano that was out of tune, so he took the piano in the studio and made it out of tune in the same manner, so it sounded the same. The song is about loneliness, which later on, unfortunately, plays out big in the life of Richard Manuel, but I thought this was a stripped-back ballad and very powerful.
Yeah, exactly. A bit of a depressing way to end this A-side, but I really enjoyed this tune as well. Some of the standout lines were, I can feel you standing there, but I don't see you anywhere. Some of the best lyrics, I think, on the record were found in this tune. So,
and they had some nice backing vocals that hadn't come in so much so far, so I thought that was excellent.
A little different than some of the other more upbeat tunes we had just heard on this A-side.
Start off the B-side with Jemima Surrender, sung by Helm, co-written by Helm. Helm moved over and played the guitar. Richard Manuel moved to the drums, and a lot of critics have said they love this song musically because the drums are so off-kilter that it actually sounds good.
It works for it.
It works for it. Basically, the lyrics, we think he wants to hook up with Jemima. That's kind of what it seems to me.
Yeah, exactly. I enjoyed this more for that, again, that guitar and organ and a little bit of brass interplay.
The instrumentation's the standout for sure.
Between them, and then that moves us to Rocking Chair, which is sung by Manuel. And here we got a guy pretty much reminiscing a little bit about his life and then looking forward to retirement.
Yes.
He's out at sea looking, and then that just kind of...
He's going to come home and chill out with his friend, and they're just going to kick back.
Exactly. Brought forth a little bit of a nostalgic flair for me when I was hearing the tune, so another solid track.
Yeah, I thought it had nice harmonies again and really chilled out. So yeah.
One of my favorite vocal performances actually was on this tune. So.
I agree. I think the strip back sometimes, like their instrumentation's so good on the other songs that when you strip it back, you get to enjoy the vocals. So I think that's a great point.
Lookout Cleveland is up next. This was sung by Danko, and we have a little boogie woogie riff on here by Manuel at the start on the piano, and then we come in with Danko warning, look out Cleveland, a storm's coming through, but it's not Cleveland, Ohio.
It is not.
It's Cleveland, Texas, because as the song progresses, he says look out Houston, and Cleveland, Texas is near Houston, so you can kind of connect the dots in that regard. I thought this had a little bit of, again, of a little rural atmosphere to
Yeah,
it.
the instrumentation kind of built that up. I thought it had a nice piano in there.
Yeah, exactly. Not a standout track
No.
for me, but again, it was solid.
Yeah, and that's going to bring us to Jawbone, sung by Manuel, co-written by Manuel. It's about a criminal who's wanting to do more crime, basically, Trey, as you read through the lyrics. I thought it had a good piano. I thought it was just an okay track.
Yeah, the melody here was built on the keys, which is a little obviously unique in rock music, but then the guitar comes in with about a minute 25 left with some good heart, some good class. Solid tune. This B-side I don't think is as strong as the A-side until the last two tracks, but even the songs that don't stand out as much you can appreciate.
Yeah, and that's going to take us to a Danko song track, The Unfaithful Servant. And the lyrics concern a servant who offended the mistress of the house and is being sent away. The singer offers some sympathy to the servant. The released version of the song, Trey, uses the very first vocal that Danko laid down, but he went on to do it 30 or 40 more times, but they ended up deciding that the first one was the best. One of George Harrison's biographers said that the band's first two albums were highly influential on him and actually named this song in particular as being the most influential on him. So being big Beatles guys like we are, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, this was my favorite song on the B-side. It had, again, one of my favorite lines. Need us not bow our heads, for we won't be complaining. Life has been good to us all, even when that sky is raining. And I got to shout out Garth Hudson on the brass here. He's solid throughout the entire album, but here I think is where he peaks. And then that takes us into our final track, King Harvest Has Surely Come. This one is sung by Manuel. And here, this is sung from the point of view of a sharecropper, and unfortunately the rains aren't coming in, so the crops aren't fruitful, the barn burns down, then you have a slick talking like labor union
saying, come join the union, man. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to hold out for more money and do what we say, so he becomes a union man.
And eventually King Harvest does end up coming. Here musically we have that clavinet yet again coming into play, so that stood out and was a little bit unique. And the subject matter yet again, it just gives you that Americana feel, which is what they're so known for.
Yeah, and the structure of the song is unusual because Manuel's singing the verses and they're very energetic. And then Helm comes in with Manuel to sing the chorus, and it's more stripped back. So it's the opposite of what normal songs are. So I thought that was a very good thing to finish the album off on. What are your favorite songs?
Mine would be Up on Cripple Creek, The Unfaithful Servant, and then The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down. What are your favorites?
Actually, mine are the same three, so we can move right on to the album ranking. What'd you give this one?
I am going to be at a solid 8.25 on this. I enjoyed this through further listens as I kind of got the Americana type of instrumental vibe with it. I enjoyed it more as well when I had the lyrics pulled up and was following along with the stories. There's actually going to be a film coming out on the band later this year that Jimmy showed me the trailer to, so I like that we're getting more kind of musical feature film, so that'll be cool. And I enjoyed it. What about you?
I'm right there with you at an 8.25. On further listens, I enjoyed it more and more. Yes, the lyrics are such a part of the story, and I feel like if we had more time, we listened to it several times, but if we had more time, I think this will continue to grow on us. It was an enjoyable experience.
It really was, and let us know what you think of the band's self-titled record in the comments below. Be sure to give us a big thumbs up and subscribe if you enjoyed this. And again, Jimmy, thanks for the support. And until next time, y'all, thank you so much for watching. Happy listening, my friends, and we will see ya.